Hey,
What's
what's
going
up,
on,
everybody?
everybody?
Oh, you go
My
ahead,
name,
Dante. You can do the intro. You got that intro.
my
I'm gonna
bad.
just straighten stuff up.
This is the One and One Sports Show on the Black Men Offensive Network. My name is Dante,
And I'm Shawnee.
and obviously, if you can tell by the thumbnail, man, we just passed the part in the NFL where the franchise tag deadline is done. So basically, what that means, if you're not familiar with that, if you're either playing under the franchise tag if you signed it, or if you did not sign it, you're not contractually obligated to show up. And the big focus on this is, and I feel real weird about this one because as far as analytics goes, I love them. Football, it's harder to do it with because you're dealing with a lot of scheme and heart. You can't judge people's heart like you can in any sport, and you don't know how you're going to fit with the other 10 players. But the running back position it's hit a point to where it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's also a conversation that, and you're going to hear this a lot with this topic. The union has to pick up the ball with this, and of the other professional leagues, the NFL has the strongest amount of revenue that they make, but they have the weaker player union. And so it's something that, we wanted to get into it right off the bat because it's pretty shocking as far as all the things that you ask a running back to do, and then, in a way, discard them.
Yeah, I can understand both sides of the coin on this one because yes, like running backs like Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, even though he got his money. At one time, Alvin Kamara, um, running backs that hell, even Derrick Henry, I believe he got his money. But running backs are used not just in the traditional aspect of just getting the ball handed off to them. I heard on the radio one time they labeled them as offensive weapons. They'll run the ball, they'll catch the ball at the backfield. You have them running routes like a receiver at times. Um, they doing blitz pickup a whole lot. So they are very like especially for Saquon. He is extremely used by the Giants. And when basically when it was Saquon and Daniel Jones, the Giants chose who's even though the Giants are basically they revolve completely around Barkley. They chose Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones got the contract, which I understand because he's a quarterback, and it's like right now there's not a lot of quarterbacks that's floating around out there, so you have to stick with what you have. And he's shown some progression in the Dayball era, and but it's still Saquon Barkley's. The offense revolves around Barkley, but they didn't want to give him the money. Saquon has right now, unfortunately, already a history of injuries. You've seen running backs in the past. You can always take the Le'Veon Bell route, and I don't suggest that at all because he got paid. He left the original team he was with, the Steelers, ended up getting his money with the Jets, and wasn't the same player at all. Which that goes into a whole other debate because a lot of times I tell people a lot of times a player, any NFL player, whatever position, quarterback, receiver, running back, a lot of your production is based on the team that drafts you. And you can say that about the greats, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers when he was with the Packers. They had like good pieces and then a good head coach and all that. Because Patrick Mahomes could have been easily drafted. I'd just say, what happened if he was drafted by Houston? He wouldn't probably be the Patrick Mahomes that we see today. So with Le'Veon Bell, he had a lot of his success with the Steelers. They was using him perfectly. But he wanted his money. They let him go. Completely fell off. And there's other running backs, and maybe not as far as their production fell off. Their production, as far as when they was joining a new team after they got their money, but some of their production fell off due to injuries right after they got their money. So the NFL is looking at that. They're getting overworked and overworked. I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen to Tony Pollard because he's coming off a major injury. He hasn't got paid yet, and he's not really, excited about that. But right now, they basically on a wait and see. Unfortunately for him, with the Cowboys, they already went with this experiment with Zeke, who wasn't an injury thing basically at the time. It was his production, and they paid him earlier. He still had like I believe 2 or 3, like at least 2 seasons, 4 seasons left of his contract when he got paid.
Yeah,
So
he had a year left on the deal because he signed it after year 3. Signed it in
yeah,
the 19 season. So he had the full another year that you could have brought him back the next year, and of course you could franchise tag him. And it's kind of like it's a. I'll say this, and I'll say this. So if you clip it or anything, you'll be able to hear what my full thoughts on it is, and you can always come back to this. I fully for as a fan of the NFL, fan of the Cowboys, fan of different players. I want you to get your money first. Hey, bro, only a certain small amount of people are going to be able to get that Super Bowl. You are banging your body around. You need to get as much as you can while you can, because if you ever go to a game, they are able to charge the prices they charge and make the money they make because there is a consumer base that is going to want this sport. So you are a commodity in this sport as far as you have the special abilities of anyone else, and you worked all the way to get here. In NIL, that's a whole nother topic. Can't really get paid in college. You are in the professionals to cash your check and get paid. You have to think that way. So, and I see when guys, they might take a cut or this, that, and whatever. Hey, that's their personal decision for the union and the betterment of your position group and the guys, after you and the guys that put in the work before you. You need to try to get as much as you can. And that could be a different thing from, hey, I'm a Cowboys fan. I saw how it happened with Zeke. I didn't care for them, franchise tagging Pollard. Let the guy hit the open market off of a big year when they were like, oh, can he handle all of the carries and all the production? Can he do it? Clearly showed that he could, even when games where Zeke was out. I know a lot of Cowboy fans or Zeke fans also say, oh, man, he's just this or that. So that's his situation. But I think there's a lot of players. I think there's a lot of players that have been seeing the comments about the running back position. And it's like, yes. And I told my friend, because I got into arguments, I don't want my team to per se pay a running back. Like, I don't want you to double dip twice unless it's just, hey, the situation with Zeke. If they would have let the contract play out, I would have been fine. Hey, give him a 3-year extension, front loaded, give him the big money. You can structure the deals the way you need them to, but to completely just disregard the position, that's a tough thing where we're dealing with human beings, because now we're getting close to what they do in basketball, which I don't like, which is this guy fits with him. Your boy Murray, he does that a lot. And they're going that way with football. And it's like, nah, bro, you can't really do that. You putting these people in these positions, like you can't just dehumanize them. It's like, this and talk about them. Like I saw Titus Howard from the Texans. They listed the running backs from the Super Bowl. And he was like, every team doesn't have these quarterbacks. You have to keep that in mind. And it's like a lot of the teams that do win more, if they win with their running back, they are usually with a quarterback that's early in their development. Like you said with Saquon Barkley, I don't think Daniel Jones ever gets there. I think they need Saquon Barkley because that line it's okay, but he's spectacular. The receivers are okay. Everything's okay. He's the only thing that's special, except for that left tackle is a top end player. And I think that the union and Le'Veon Bell did. I don't know what he did with the union and how he tried to pursue the situation, but it seems like he just was like, look, I'm not going to. And I agree with what he did in the sense, you have used me up through my contract. You franchise tagged me. You were about to run me into the ground, throw me into the ground, and let me hit the market. And then teams are going to be like, I don't want to give you a number. And with his situation, the Steelers don't do a lot of. They get fun. They don't guarantee. I heard them and guaranteed money don't get along with contracts. I've heard that, and you've heard it. I've heard it from the Antonio Brown situation. I remember from the Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what the guaranteed money for other players is, but it's definitely something that they need to look into as far as a union getting that situated.
See, we got some special guests. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, fellas.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Ezekiel, Dwayne's nephew coming in from Louisiana, and this is my little cousin. This is his son, Jabbar.
What's going on?
What's going on?
So, y'all want to say something about the running back situation?
Oh yeah, I really do feel like running backs are undervalued because like usually they always look for quarterbacks, receivers. But in my perspective, I feel like D linemen, running backs, and all that should be able to, be runner ups for MVP as well. Like Saquon Barkley, for instance. He's a great running back. Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, all these great running backs should be in the picture for MVP. And I feel like they're MVP material.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was going to bring up because Trey in the comments he was mentioning that he wouldn't pay running backs as well, and then he was asking the question about has Saquon played a full season, and so Saquon been in the league what 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
He played a full season his first year. And this was back when they only had 16 games. His second season, he had 13 games, so he missed 3 games. That's okay. Now, his season was 2020. He only played 2. That's when he was basically out for the whole season. He played 13 games in 21, but that's by far his least productive season because he missed 3 games. Did they play 17 games in 21? Or did they start that in 22?
I think they started that in 22 because of COVID, I think.
Okay, so he played 13 out of 16, but he had less than 600 yards rushing and only 2 rushing touchdowns. So that's when his production just dropped. Last season he played 16 out of 17, and so maybe what's this 4 out of the 5 years he played more than 80% of the games. So. And in this case, it's just so different with Saquon because you brought up Dalvin Cook, even more than Dalvin Cook because the Vikings at the time when he was on the Vikings, they still had other weapons because Kirk Cousins was doing his thing with his receivers, whether it was Diggs or then followed by Jefferson. It's just Kirk has his other issues when later on the season goes. But with Barkley. Barkley is the Giants. Even though they decide to go with Daniel Jones and give him the contract, they depend on Barkley for them and everything. So it's like, okay, you don't want to pay this dude, but you literally ask him to do it. He's the only offensive weapon that gets any type of respect from the defense.
He basically
so it's like, but they didn't want to pay him. And the thing about with Barkley, and I'm only focusing on Barkley right now because it's not the same for other running backs. Because it's not the same for Pollard. Hell, even Dalvin Cook, who still hasn't signed with nobody yet. And other running backs.
Jacobs is the only one with a similar situation where he was a first-round pick. He's been productive, but he can't get a contract. In the situation since we did give the numbers for Saquon Barkley, I just want to say off the top, obviously advanced numbers are different. So his QBR, which was a decent QBR, 60.8 for Daniel Jones. He threw 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And it's just one of those, it was like, hey man, if he played 16 of 17 games, that's not really super, impressive or productive. And then you look at Saquon's numbers, and you look at the numbers when he plays, hey man, he is greatly benefited by him. And it's something that I've heard a lot of columnists say, and hey man, sometimes you pay the running back because you don't trust your quarterback. Well, if you don't trust him and the running back is good, I think you should pay him the money. And when it's time, hey, every contract is traded. We see it all the time in the NFL. Russ's contract was traded. You see it all the time. So I do think they should stop devaluing the position so much. I understand it. Maybe you should make the rules your organization. If you draft a guy high in the first round and you give him that first round money, maybe you decide, hey, I don't want to bring him back. I'm going to find a replacement. I did spend a pick on him. We had the amount of the time of the contract. Cool. Or if you get a guy like an Austin Eckler who was looking for a new deal. He went undrafted. And they paid him. They paid him a good premium amount. I think he was making around $6.5 million a year. He asked for a trade because he was like, hey, I want my value. Because if you look at Austin Eckler's numbers, he's never had over 1,000 yards, but he has a person that in the last 2 years, I think both years, he was over 20 touchdowns combined with rushing and receiving. And so that's a player that, like, hey, you can absolutely use him and utilize his skill set, especially in the game in the league where it's like you want to focus on the passing. I'd say probably it's about 65-35 or 60-40 as far as rushing attempts. Unless you have a dynamic running back like a Barkley, then it's closer to 50-50. So it's like those guys should definitely get their money. And the main thing that they have an issue with is this is something they would be able to address sooner while these guys are still in the league and the rookies that are getting ready to come in if their CBA deal is a bit shorter. They can't keep signing these so long deals. They have to push as a union to sign shorter contracts and to make and represent what you need to for the running back position. They have a special set of circumstances in which I always say a running back is normally the best player anybody is seeing at any level. So whether it's Pop Warner, middle school, high school, college, now the pros, you're taking the best hits. You're blocking 250, 60-pound defensive ends. You're getting tackled by 300-pound linemen, 200 and something pound linebackers, and you're catching the ball out of the back. You're doing so much, and they want you to do it for pennies. This is a value situation. Like, I want the union to really, I know it's going to go away once the game starts. But before it does, I want to speak it out on our platform. I wanted to be able to talk about because it's messed up. Like I saw Philip Tanner talking about it, about running backs being, as far as holding out, they're the most unselfish players normally. You know, he played running back in the league, and now he's coaching high school football here in Texas. And it's just like, dang, it's like they're making good points about it. It's just that we got to push towards it until hopefully something else happens, and some of the players, especially the running backs, stand on it, and hopefully the team representatives take a stand and say, hey, we are being underpaid. We are undervalued. You know, and I sent the group message. I said that in our group message about what the average annual salary, and it's just like that's brutal for all the work that they do. That's
And I
tough.
see Loves, he brought up a point about they should be paid, you know, based, you know, monetary value based on the hazardous, basically how the hazardous the position brings and stuff like that, how hazard it is. And that's pretty much goes back to the point where that can be a union point. That's
Yes.
something the union could point. I mean, you have your contracts, but for this particular position, since you asking this much and they literally going through this much, when it comes to hazard pay, that's something the union can focus on. And then Trey asked a question about, can you draft another running back that Saquon does at a cheaper price? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, you see that all the time. That's the thing about a running back, man. It's like, I understand what the players are saying because you devalue our position, you ask us to do so much, and the NFL owners be like, okay, because that position is always the deepest position in the draft as far as you don't have to address it. You literally don't have to address it the first 3 rounds. You can draft a running back in the 4th round, give him 3 years here in the Pro Bowl. They just operate like that. Yes, you could get a star running back in the first 3 rounds, but you got to pay him more money, and then you might find yourself again in this type of situation like the Giants are at Barkley. So I can see it on both sides. You hate for a player to be, they literally just getting used and dried up, and then when they can't do nothing no more, they just throw them out there, you know, all wasted. But then the owners the owners have seen this throughout the years. Like, dude, we can find somebody who is cheaper. They may not can do the exact same thing. Like it's hard to say I could find somebody who can do exactly what Christian McCaffrey do. That's an elite skill set right there. But you know, right now McCaffrey's with the 49ers. We don't have to find nobody to do, especially when you got Shanahan as your coach.
Yeah.
I can just find a running back who's productive, but thankfully he got his money already prior to coming.
He got his money already, but in his situation, I'll counter that with, you can always say, hey, I'm going to go and find someone else and go and get another guy. And if your scouting department hits on it, then everything kind of falls right, because a lot of the running back position, it does fall with the offensive line. They have 5 people that they depend on to make things right. What I'll say about the New York Giants situation is this. They don't have 5 guys that they can rely on that can consistently be able to produce as blockers. They don't have a quarterback that they can consistently depend on to make things happen on the outside and the inside as far as the passing game. His situation, that's why we said it's so different. He does deserve to be compensated and get a contract. I'll say with Josh Jacobs. He's had points in his career. Rookie year, looked really good. Had some years in between, not so much. Went through coaching changes. They called his bluff, didn't pick up his player option, went out and led the league in rushing. And it's one of those deals where it's like, yeah, he gets rewarded with the franchise tag. The only problem with that is they've devalued the position so much that even the franchise tag, obviously to us, yes, $10 million is a lot of money, but compared to their counterparts, it's not enough. And it's something that has to be dead. It has to be done. And I will say this. Now, I will say to help your argument, Shawnee, can you think of the only back that's basically got an extension? Every back that's got an extension has normally it didn't end up too well. And that happens with a lot of positions or a lot of players, but it gets focused on the running back. Because I know the answer, and it's just kind of like it's someone that I never thought would still be in the league, and that would be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry signed his extension a few years ago and has been, for the most part, he's getting older. He's closer to that 30 mark. He's starting to lose tread, but he's a guy that they have built around. They've made it to the AFC Championship. Yeah, they had Ryan Tannehill coming in and making plays, but that team was comfortable giving the ball to Derrick Henry because he brought so much value as a runner. So much from the tough yards to the big yards. And it's like he does all of this. And it's the tough deal. I do all this production, but you still shame it and say, hey, this guy, I'm gonna go and get this young cheap guy. And even if it doesn't work, since he's cheap, you get another one the next year. And it's something that, hey, the union has to adjust. Like Love said, hey, with the hazard pay, they need to address it in union. It's like, hey, my job is just difficult. The life expectancy as an NFL player is like 2.5, 3 years. And so I can only imagine the running back, you will see him one day and then here today, gone tomorrow. So it's something that they have to address, and it's something for the time being. It's kind of tough if you are a talented high school football player to want to continue to pursue that position. Because if they treat it like that there, yeah, you might get traded really well at the college level, but then if you are talented enough to make it to the league, that's how they're going to treat you. And so it's something it's really bad. It's gotten this bad. And I think that I just can't think of the way they talk about the guys. Like, I hate the way they talk about them, just so bad. Like, it's just like, dude, like, you just demeaning this man that's putting in like work and one of the best in the world. Like, someone made an example of like somebody like Philip Lindsay, who was undrafted and had 2,000-yard seasons with the Denver Broncos. And it was just like only for them to end up releasing him, and then he's going on from team to team. He's put in all this production from college at the University of Colorado to the NFL teams with the Broncos and other teams, only to get paid a smaller dollar amount. It's like this.
That was that system he was going on.
Yeah, it's rough because you get guys and you're like, oh, I'm gonna replace him with this person, and then you get them and it's like, it's not quite the same. Mm-hmm. And whether it's the blocking, whether it's the scheme, you can put it in however you want it. But the running back, what's in to tell you that player and that agent will be like, hey, you didn't pay my guy, and just look at the loss in production that you received. Like a guy like DeMarco Murray when he left. We left the Cowboys. That 15.
Yeah, that's similar to the Le'Veon. Even though Le'Veon made more noise on his way out as far as asking his money, but that's similar with DeMarco. He was successful with the Cowboys. As soon as he went to the Titans and the Eagles, really, his production
the Eagles first it fell off, and so I don't mind guys because I know with the free agent tag, with the franchise tag, I wouldn't sign it until it's time to play games. I wouldn't touch camp at all. Keep your body in shape and then show up and perform and do what you need to do. Because it's a tough situation, but I don't see him turning down the $10 million. Whereas, and everybody's situation is different. Tony Pollard was a 4th round pick, like you said. 4th round pick, worked his way up, Pro Bowler, now he's the starter. He basically is going to follow the blueprint of everyone else. He's going to play this year. If he's productive, go on and sign to another team. The only thing that's different with his situation, and I would like for teams to look at it by a case-by-case basis, this is a guy that's never been the full guy from middle school, high school, anywhere. He was a receiver in college and converted to running back.
He's always been part of a tandem.
If you get part of a tandem, you get this guy, he's got more tread on the tires. Derrick Henry was used in the share back system, and I think that's some of the reason that him being just a physical freak, as far as being that big, 250 pounds, that quick, agile, and fast. and he's been able to make it. So I think you should look at it on a case-by-case situation. Even the Eckler, he's a guy that maybe he should get an increase, but he's going to be somebody you pair with someone else because he's definitely going to be on the field on third down. Because he, his potency to, to catch the ball and make plays. And obviously the size, when they just did we're going to get to the running back rankings later on the top 10 list. But, his size is the best, but he's made away with his size to make it. So it's just like they need to put those things into consideration. But it's football. Everything is group mindset. Hey, this team that's winning, they're doing that. Let's just discard the running back. I don't think you should fully discard them at all. You just be wise of when you draft them, how you pay them. But make sure, hey, if they're producing, don't hold on to them with the franchise tag. Let them hit the market. And that's the other thing. They wanted the owners want everything. They want to franchise tag you, not pay you when you get to the market, not let you get to the market when you extra peak. Because they worry one of their counterparts is going to just give them a Zeke type of deal. Give them a what's his name? Curtis Knee, Ty Gurley. They're scared of somebody breaking the market like that.
He had a whole lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Injuries, the money. Todd Gurley, I was like, that dude, you talking about a running back who was just so highly productive, and he just fell off. I was like, damn, Gurley, what happened?
Carried him to a Super Bowl.
What happened to you?
I mean,
Isaiah and Jabari, what y'all got?
I'm gonna follow up what he was saying. Like Todd Gurley, like for instance, like he had a promising career ahead of him, but money problems and all these other problems, and people just devaluing the position of running back in this whole, like they just devalue it to the point where, like me being a former running back in high school, it's just like people really devalue that position. Like people don't see us like highly paid, like as in a quarterback or a receiver would be. They don't see like once we like something defective happens with us, they're ready to just throw us to the side like and want us to pay pennies. They just want to pay pennies. They don't want to pay high. They don't at all. And they just throw us to the side like Todd Gurley. He promising career, high stats, and he just fell off. Just fell off completely.
Mm-hmm.
And like Saquon, he's barely been, playing because of injuries. And whenever he comes back, he actually produces some things, but sometimes they don't think it's just enough. But I really feel like they shouldn't devalue that position at all.
I think in the past, the running backs by far was highly valued. Now I can't really say as far as money wise because I wasn't paying attention to the contracts back then.
Yeah.
But just the way how they was drafted, how they was like names on a team, like solid names on a team that, especially if they was good, everybody knew. And the team that they was on, the respective team, highly valued. You see them moving around a lot. If they had a good running back, that team locked them in.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was the heart of many of their offense. Now in today's football, it's moved from the running backs to the quarterbacks. It's more about passing, so that's why you see the quarterbacks, receivers, the two highest paid skill players, and then now you find yourselves in these tight end spaces because you remember when
Jimmy Graham?
Yeah, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, Jimmy
He
Graham.
was mainly a tight end, the Saints user, but they kept using him as a receiver. So he wanted to get paid like a receiver, and they're like, nah. They kept going back and forth. You kind of see. I think the Chiefs are going to pay him, or they did pay him. I got to look at his contract. But you see, as far as his usage, the Chiefs do the same thing with Kelsey, and you see also other tight ends like that in the league. Hell, it was the same thing that Deebo Samuel had with the 49ers because they was using him all over the place. So he wanted to get paid like a receiver, a running back. Hell, y'all got me all over the place. So in the past, it was offenses were oriented and they circulated around the running backs. And then now in this new time frame, it's about quarterbacks, receivers, and to an extent, tight end. And
so, do you see what Trey said?
Yeah, well,
before
before Trey, I wanted to bring up, because I'm trying to figure out what she was saying, Lady D, about and I wish I could highlight these comments, but I guess I don't have the skill set to do. She brought up the fact that I guess black men, it's their job to have a voice for the black players. So I guess a lot of running backs we talking about they black players,
Yeah.
but we throw them under the bus. And I was trying to make sense. I'm like, I'm
What I'll
trying to
say
understand,
is, it's as far as throwing them under the bus, there is a component. There are some people that, because they play fantasy sports, and there's normally
yeah, fantasy
there's gambling element
yeah,
to that.
that brings a
They
whole
will.
bunch of
Some people
selfish
do
stuff
that,
to it.
and some people. But what the real issue is, it's the propaganda from the owners. What they will do is they will take the. We are more closer to the players than we will ever be to the billionaire owners. They will take the players and turn us against them because we're the fans of the team and we blindly, root for them. And they will make us be like, hey, you should take this deal. That's why I made the comment I said in the beginning. Every player should get their own, not just for their own personal family, but for the union, the players before them, and the players that are to come. They need to get that money and represent the position. The only thing is with football, there are 53 different parties as compared to the other unions. So you get 53 people to agree on anything. And that's 53 people times 32. So you have to get all those guys and those union reps to agree on that. They got to find a way to buckle down and maybe miss some game checks and make some sacrifice to kind of break down different situations like the value of the running back. But as to what Trey said in regards to the evolution has definitely hurt it. The only thing I will say this, I'll throw in this caveat. If we let them devalue the running back position, we know they don't, even if the quarterbacks make a lot and it's like, hey, they cater to them. When it comes time to get ugly, they'll slight the quarterback too. We saw that here in the Dallas quarterback place about the things leaking about Prescott. You see, even with the Saints, they franchise tag Breeze, a future Hall of Fame tag.
One point about the quarterback though, because even with with Dak Prescott, it's just basically word of mouth as far as like the criticism that he receives. Because the team not going to go nowhere because it's easier.
Yeah.
Like the point we've been making this whole time, it's a lot easier to replace a running back. A quarterback can set your franchise just back for years. He's hard to find. So with Dak, he's been productive, and then when he's not productive, they highlight on that. And my whole thing when it comes to like quarterbacks like Dak, okay, if you're gonna get rid of him, who you gonna put there? And a lot of times, if a player, if it's the same like production level or better, they already locked up, so you can't even look at them. And now you're gonna get worse, and most likely you may find yourself like in the Andy Dalton situation. It's exactly what the Texans did when Bill O'Brien first became their head coach. He didn't want to invest a lot of money in a quarterback. So those first 4 years, until he got Brock Osweiler, that's a whole different thing. Then he kept using these stopgap QBs, thinking he can win with them. They can only take him so far. And then next thing you know, the Texans went down a hole until they landed Deshaun Watson. So with Dak, it's just, and the quarterbacks like that, if they productive, the team has no choice but to give them their money. Because if you get rid of them, that's what the Giants found themselves with Daniel Jones. Even though he wasn't as productive, they just going because his first good, somewhat decent season with this new head coach. Yeah, they hoping he can improve on that. Because if you lose the quarterback,
he can be
that could be 10
Eli Manning. They're hoping because he got coached by the same coach. He's got the same kind of mindset. They have tricked themselves into thinking that this man is going to beat Eli Manning, and it's just absolutely nuts. But I'll continue with that point. If you will let them devalue the running back, devalue these positions, like you said, the tight end blocks, even if he's not the best blocker, he's expected to block at times. He's supposed to run intermediate. He's supposed to run deep. He slots outside as a receiver. You got guys now, they'll give him the, handoff plays. You expect them to do a lot of things, but it's just like, oh, we're going to pay you this amount. And then it's the debate of, oh, we can't even draft you high. Because the world was going crazy over drafting, was a receiver, tight end from Florida, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Everyone was, because you can't just grade him out and say, hey, he's graded as this type of player. You have to take him there. Even with the offensive line, got Zach Martin, threatening to hold out today. It's like the
That's
players
a
see
whole.
the
That's a whole
they
different
see the
subject,
money
though.
being made and they're tired of being undervalued. It's like, hey, you should pay me this. Now, his situation more so has to deal with he signed a long
Yeah,
deal a long time ago, and it's just like I'm still better than these guys. I need to be paid. So
dude is a
it is a certain
future first
situation.
ballot Hall of Famer.
Future
Nowhere he should be in. He should be a
top of the
guard,
top.
a top two paid guard in the NFL. If not number one, maybe a younger
Yeah,
guard who's. But that dude is a future first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know what he's
no
doing as
doubt.
low as he is. He's a whole different.
And
Yeah, he's a
I think
different
that gets handled.
conversation.
I think that gets handled quick. I also think that veteran players
Super
tend to
quick.
not like training camp because it's like, bro, I've been doing this. And so I would be surprised if he got a deal and he was in camp, a couple weeks in when they get the pads on or whatever. But it's just overall, I'm just hoping that players guys that are getting ready to get drafted, because they have more of an impact on the next CBA because they're younger players and their clock will start. That they will have it in their mind to realize, like, you're here, this is your dream, but this is also your job. Make sure your job is good for not just yourself, but the people that's coming behind you. Because a lot of times you hear guys, that's why I love listening to Dominique Foxworth. He was a part of the union. He was in them conversations and fighting. And it's just like going against the NFL. That's 32 billionaires. That's a behemoth. That is a 500-pound gorilla that you got to go in with, and all you got is your hands and gloves, and that's a gorilla. So it's like it's tough. They got money, resources, the media. They have so much against you. So I would challenge fans as well. I would definitely challenge fans to say, hey, let's not look at it as, hey, this is our team. Let's be blind. Look at it as, hey, man, what if your nephew, what if your nephew, what if your son, what if your cousin, makes it to the league? Do you want them to be just discarded like that? If they're a running back or if they any position, or do you want them to get value for what they put and the talents that they have? And
Mhm.
I think that's something is better yet, hell, do you want value at your job? Your job more than likely does not have a union. So you don't have to, you can't even go up and fight the way that they can. You have to start a union, unionize, and then go that point. They have a harder fight, but just I want fans to just be more like that. Like everybody's more so, man, I want to get the guy for 2 mil. Like, come on, bro. Yeah, that's gonna help your team. Well, what about this man when
Yeah.
you looking up and it's
And I see a point KP brought up. He's saying like the CBA basically has to be crap because
yeah.
running back.
The
I'm like
this the
it's
CBA is not it's not very strong.
it's not, but again, you got to think of the position we're talking about. This particular position is easier. It's probably the easiest position for the teams to fill. So if there's a running back that comes and he's demanding a lot of money, and considering that, because a lot of times a running back success, everybody not Barry Sanders. You can't
Nah.
have a mediocre and offensive line and high producing. You're gonna have a good O line if you got a productive running back. So they looking at it, they're like, okay, man, we don't want to pay you this much money, but we can go get a good running back who maybe not cost as much and put him back there. He may not be able to produce the high numbers that you did, but he can come down close. And we save whatever money. So yeah, it's it's a position. It's just a position. It's this particular sport. You play in a position that is fairly easy, I say, for teams to address and have success addressing them in a draft or in free agency and somewhat free agency compared to giving you this high dollar mark, especially when you got to pay all these other players potentially on your squad. Because 50 man, if it's 53, well, at least 21. I'm just keeping that for the starters. 21 other
Yeah.
starters on your team. So it's just that position. Um, a lot of times when a running back does get that great money, they don't live up to it. Cause now you got all this pressure on them. Um, Usually they already kind of somewhat used up a little bit from their
They,
first 2 years in the league when they really made the biggest noise. So
yeah.
now fans see this player getting all this money, and then all of a sudden they not producing nothing like they was their first 2 or 3 years. Now you're like, damn, now what we going? Well, now all this money is tied up to this one running back position that you knew beforehand has a high chance of devaluing by what,
Yeah.
year 5 or something like that. So it's just the nature of the position. Yes, they need to get
It
paid,
is.
but that dude, if you was a GM for a respective team, just imagine the type of decisions you want to have to be making, paying this position that you know can be devalued fairly rapidly compared to other positions, or saving some of this money and go get you another receiver, or go make sure your top receiver stays in your squad that can really hamper your team if he leaves, or taking care of your old lineman, your blocker, your tackle, all this other stuff. So, and I can just go to the draft and pick up somebody in the 4th round and come
Yeah.
in if I have a good line and sit here and give me 1,000-yard season. So I'm like, dude, you got to. I guess there's a fandom hat that looks at the players when they money, and then there's a GM hat. And you got to account for all these 53 positions on your roster, and how you gonna spread this money out. And
Yeah,
what,
KP made a good point. He said that quarterbacks and receivers are killing the cap, and what I would say is this: it's tied in with the running back position. Quarterbacks and running backs need to have special circumstances for that salary cap, because a quarterback, as we've seen, a good quarterback, even a backup, could be in the league until their mid-30s. A running back, hey man, that it used to say 30. Now by the time they get to 27, and for me, I think they say 27 is high school, high level college, and then you get to the pros. It doesn't matter that you're not playing against the best competition. Kids still hurt, banged up on bodies. So it's like they need shorter term deals. And if I had a relative or a close friend that was playing running back, if you're going to do it, hey man, you need to go to whatever college, go to a school with a running back where you can split the load with them first year. Maybe they're playing 1 year or 2. They go on to the league. Hopefully you either redshirt and you leave after your redshirt sophomore year, or if you don't redshirt, you leave after your junior year, no questions asked. There's no need to get the way they're going to devalue you. No need to play another 4th year. Like I remember a running back, I think it's Lamont Jordan. He had a great career, and then he came back for that senior year, and it all went downhill for him. It's like, nah, you got to go with 3 years, come in, try to hit the league 21, 22, and preferably, I know everyone said the first round money, which is great. If you get taken in that second round, that's a 4-year deal.
yeah.
Instead of that 5-year, and then the which now they can do 4-year deal contract, the 5th-year player option, and then franchise tag. And if they do that, that's 6 years. After that, you're not getting no big money. So it's like I want the running backs to be smarter about it, and hopefully they can fight to get the league to change some things, fight with their CBA to change things in the league. But I know we said we got the top 10 list. Which one you want to start with?
Well, before we get to the top 10, I was
Okay.
going to address. Appreciate Emmanuel and David. Appreciate you watching from Cedar Hill. We up in the DFW area, I said as well.
What's going on?
I was just laughing because Trey brought up a point that I've been seeing like some, I don't know if it's reports or rumors about Shannon Sharp contacting ESPN about doing some shows with on First Take, and he said he's about to get more money than Sway Cohen, which could be true because a lot of times that's these media personalities or TV jobs, they offer good money compared to these players' playing careers, especially with Shannon Sharp, who played in the previous generation,
In the old days.
So he definitely gonna get more money than what he did.
He wasn't even in the era where they had 7-round drafts. He had them where they had like 12, 13 rounds and stuff. So he was in one of that old school. Man, KP, you really been killing it tonight. Yes, Chase Daniel went to South Lake Carroll High School here in the Metroplex. He has been stealing money, being a quarterback as a backup.
That's what they say about backup QBs. It's like it's a
great job if you can get it.
Exactly. You can get a backup QB. As long as you keep that job, and you got steady checks coming for you for what, at least 10, 15 years?
Just by doing that.
And just hold the clipboard. Go in a couple of games when you need it, and go back and hold the clipboard. Because think about Chase Daniel, a lot of people always looking at them holding the clipboard or not really on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But he's obviously he's damn near probably like a quarterback coach to the starting QB. Like their value in the locker rooms, in the film session, that's where they get paid off of.
Helping with install, helping with all of those things. If you've ever seen them on the sidelines talking through that play, or they looking on the sideline, you're like, what the hell are they doing?
That's why you see a
They're
lot of
looking at,
backup
hey,
quarterbacks.
what did you see?
Head coaches.
Yeah,
what did you see in this play?
Exactly.
It's certain things that they see that the starting quarterback don't see, and he's there to help out a lot of times.
And that's their biggest value. So yeah, we want to appreciate y'all for joining us. You know, I guess we got a lot of feedback for this running back situation. So it's gonna be interesting to see what the feedback in this next one. Because what we say, Dante, you want to piss people off?
Man, let's piss people off.
So let's start pissing people off. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna read the names first, and then we'll talk about it. And so basically, ESPN recently put out a top 10. Mr. Bennett, top 10 quarterback list. So so in the names, I'm gonna read off. Of course, you got number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, Joe Burrow. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers. Number 5, Justin Herbert. 6, Jalen Hurts. 7, Lamar Jackson. 8, Trevor Lawrence. 9, Dak Prescott. 10, Matthew Stafford. And then an honorable mention, and I'm just going to mention because they had multiple ones, but the first honorable mention, which I believe this dude can come in because he'll
be back next year.
His skill set is as good as Patrick Mahomes, but he had all the off the field stuff, and that's Deshaun Watson.
Don't want to get into that.
Because talked about that many times. What he did with the Texans, this dude was off the charts, and that's the thing. Like, he's an honorable mention right now, but this dude can possibly be a top 3, top 2 QB if everything comes back to if he can regain his
Mr. Bennett,
form.
Yes,
with the weapons he has with in Cleveland. Oh hell yeah! But that's the I done pushed the wrong button on my phone. But those are top 10 rankings. So what y'all got?
Top 10. Some of those numbers I really don't agree with, to be honest. Some of those numbers I really don't agree with. Some people should be different places in this area because, yes, I believe Patrick Mahomes should be number 1. Right now, he's the greatest quarterback I've seen so far. But with the some of the ratings, I just really feel like it shouldn't be there.
Which one you got an issue with? Read the names again. I'll tell you which ones.
I know one that's probably controversial. I'm gonna try to help you out. I saw Mr. Bennett put it in the chat that Hurts should be over Herbert.
Yes,
at 5 and 6, and that's my one. And it pains me, but I gotta be unbiased and real. After the year Hurts had, I'm a believer that hey, he's a damn good quarterback, and he should be above Herbert. Herbert has all the tools, but he gets the biggest freaking pass I've ever seen. He blew. I can't remember. It was a 21+ point lead in the playoff game. Yes, he could be a top 10 quarterback, but he can't be over the guy that made to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He can't be over that guy. That's just.
And that's the one I was exactly what I was talking about. I can't see Justin Herbert being over.
We think it alike. I appreciate it, brother. That maddened me right there. That one, when I saw that one, I was like, that one. And I'll say this one, number 10. Come on, bro. I know you won a Super Bowl. No disrespect, but he was cheeks last year, and that's he's not top 5, but that Rodgers is one that you can debate. I'm glad they didn't overhype. They didn't overhype Lawrence. They put him at 8, but to have Stafford on there at 10, I think he could have been honorable mention. And then you get into maybe do you put Watson in there?
Yeah, 10, maybe I can see Deshaun Watson being at 10 or 9, and instead of honorable mention. Maybe Matthew Stafford because he got a Super Bowl, but at the same time, nah.
I think Watson having that rust and having some moments where it's like, ooh, and he just needs to work that out. That's gonna take care of itself. So, but like you said, like we were talking about last week with picks, sometimes it's projection. I kind of can go with you projecting. Hey, Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, quality offensive line, and a solid defense. You can see Watson having a lot of success, and I try not to do the quarterback wins thing because it's a competency thing. Because Deshaun Watson was a top 10 quarterback with a terrible team that won 4 games, and it wasn't because he wasn't bad; it was the team was
He almost
putrid.
threw
Without him,
5,000
they
yards
go
that
0-16. They go 0-16 without him that year, and so that's one. I'm gonna ask you, Dubar, what do you think about? This is one that it's been about a year now. I'm a big Josh Allen fan. How do you feel about him being 3 and Burrow being 2?
My favorite quarterback is Joe Burrow because he's young and he's from LSU, and I think he should be above Josh Allen because he's been to Super Bowl or close to Super Bowl many times.
I'm with you on that one. That's where I put them above. They stood toe to toe, and that's why I get mad. Certain quarterbacks don't get critiqued the same way. Burrow stood toe to toe with Allen in his house, if I'm not mistaken, in Buffalo. In his house, and it's tough to play in Buffalo, and they smoked those guys. They smoked them.
He owned them.
Hey,
What's up,
what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Pretty good. I was listening to you guys. I think the whole football game or athlete have changed now. Since now that you can be incentivized, I don't think your goal should be to make it to the lead anymore. I think your goal now should be to secure the biggest bag that you can get before you get to the league.
And I am.
For example, what we've seen is those ladies at LSU. I think they said they're making about $1.5 million in college.
They're millionaires.
Yeah. So, and then you look at like these NFL players, they're making pennies on the dollars compared to what college people are making nowadays. So I think now it's more about branding yourself, making a name for yourself. What we see a lot of is very good players going to really bad districts or schools, districts. Maybe going to a AAA. They're running up the stats. They running for 400-500 yards a game. And what they do is they're looking for sponsorships. I think now the money is more into the sponsorship instead of the direct pay for the NFL. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'm kind of glad you said that. I'm kind of glad you said that because one player that I could, just spot on say like who went to a bad district and who's really making the names for himself is Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders' son. They all went to bad districts and they've turned the programs around and now they've come back to, the Pac-12 and now they're actually, spreading the brand abroad in the Pac-12. So I understand where you're coming from in, this scenario. It's really not about the game anymore. It's about the sponsorship and branding that the players have now.
I actually rather be popular than good now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. You got it.
The people, what I'm learning is like the people who are more popular is going to have more sponsorships, which is lead to more money. We're seeing it right now. I don't think LeBron James' son is the best, but he's making the most sponsor money at this point in time. And it's sad to say, but now what we have to do, especially in high school, is to make sure that we have our kids have agents leaving out of high school to be able to secure, because that's another thing with sponsorship, having the right agent. Usually you didn't have to worry about an agent until you made it to the league. But now having the right agent can also secure those things too. But you do see that what we see a lot of kids now, what they're doing is they go into these historical black colleges and they throwing unbelievable, like unbelievable games. Like, hey, this dude just went for 600 yards. You're like, dang, who was he playing? Pee Wee? But it doesn't matter because that is the type of name that a sponsor would like to sponsor in that market.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're spot on with that because I was looking at it from it's a guy that Armando Baycott from North Carolina. They were in the national championship 2 years ago, and they didn't win. And then he comes back. They thought that he was going to possibly go to the league. He didn't. Then with the COVID year that all the players got, he got another year. If you're not going to be drafted high in the top of the draft as a center, because he's not a prospect wise, not the best pro prospect, but if you can play for a brand like North Carolina and get millions in NIL deals, just like why not stay there, be comfortable? That the league's not going anywhere. you stay and you get your best NIL evaluation. Like you said, Bronny James's, his was really high because he's a celebrity. Arch Manning, he was a top level quarterback. His evaluation was great as well. He went to Texas to maximize that. You're going to see players do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I would say to continue to push it. But hold on, Mr. Bennett said Dak and Kirk are about the same.
Yeah,
but
Mr.
Dak has a
Bennett.
better offensive
Mr.
line.
Bennett going
All right,
in
so
on Dak.
Mr. Bennett, what we're gonna say on this one is this: when you say the Dak comparison, do you know how many games that he has to play on national television? If he was what Kirk Cousins is, he does not play good on national television games. The Cowboys would never sniff the playoffs. So that's one where that comparison, I don't really think that's like
knew
the
when
best
I saw
thing.
Dax on the name that top 10, it's going to get that heat. Especially at coming off the season, his last season, which was a decent season. He just kept having them interceptions.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew it was going
I just want to know who you're gonna replace him with, because like you said, we just mentioned you could. I say so. You're gonna put him on. You're gonna take if you take him out. Which quarterback are you adding? Because it's like that's my thing on that list.
I would argue that, to be honest, Dak is maybe it's too low. Maybe he should be like number 6.
So right now, if you put Dak at number 6, that means you're gonna have him over basically Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, and he's already over Matt Stafford. So.
Well,
he could be over Lamar. He could be over Lamar and Lawrence. Lamar and Lawrence are two that you can put him above. But like I said, you can put him above Herbert because Herbert, like I said, let's be real, he hasn't been able to produce like we would like to, but the talent is there. So I'm with you on that. But
that's the interesting thing about me, because just 2 years ago, Lamar Jackson was what people was arguing for him like he was a top 3 quarterback. But if you say that you will put Dak over Lamar, because the whole thing that you always heard about Lamar was his weapons. He has his weapons now, where he's supposed to. So that excuse should get scratched off the list now.
They put it on his write up. On his write up, they literally said, Lamar, no more excuses. You have some weapons now. That was literally.
Let me ask you guys this question. You believe that if you were to take Lamar and put him on the Cowboys, he would have a better record than Dak Prescott?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, because Dak has a
totally different offense.
Regular season. The season that Dak struggled the most, it ties to his number 1 receiver. His third season in the league when they let go of Dez Bryant. And then they ultimately, in the middle of the season, had to trade for Amari Cooper. So that season was his worst season.
Yeah.
This season, he struggled with interceptions because they got rid of Amari Cooper. So now
he struggled with interceptions because if you look at some of them, I mean that pick 6 in Jacksonville where he throws the crossing route and the guy just basically volleyballs the ball to the DB.
He's trying to be a quarterback with a committee of receivers. So now if you take Lamar and put him on the Cowboys with them same weapons, Lamar would have had a number 1 receiver in Amari Cooper. I don't know. I can't say that one season there was no Amari. Well, because CD proved himself to be a number 1 receiver pretty much as the year went on. So he would have had his number 1 receiver. Now, will it be just a number 1 and like what Dak had, just one number 1 and kind of a cast of others? Or
Noah Brown, a guy with no ACL.
Yeah, will you get him a legit number 2? But the fact that he got a legit number 1 and he's a better runner, I think if anything, he would have put up the same amount of success as Dak as far as wins. Because Dak has been winning in the regular season. Now, when it gets to the postseason, both of them have their issues in the postseason. So that's the only thing I could when I look at it.
I would even argue that if you was to put Dak on the Ravens, I think he'll come out of that conference. He'll win that conference. See, but I think the hard part of what people don't realize is the Cowboys have one of the toughest conference because they on national television. Because you don't want to see. I think they have hands down one of the hardest conference. What do you guys think?
I will say this: as being a fan, it's tough when the schedule comes out because you know that, hey, 50% of the league with the teams that made the playoffs are they're gonna flop over. So some of the teams in your schedule that look easy are gonna be tough. But when you do play those national games, man, we cannot beat the 49ers. Week 5, when it's still the early part of the season for ratings, who are we playing? San Francisco 49ers. Week 1, who we playing? A hated rival on the road. So I feel what you're saying. It's just that as a Cowboy fan, if you say that, it looks a certain way. I see obviously you repping the Falcons, so it's like an unbiased opinion. So I'm with you on that one, but it's like when you get there after you've been there a year, you know what it is, you know the task, and that's why I love him as a quarterback. He knows the task at hand. He knows how to, even if it's boring, he knows how not to say some stupid stuff as a quarterback and just like, hey, go lead the team, go play football, go win. So I do appreciate that, but I know I love Lamar, but I would say Dak is just a little bit, but I don't know. As far as the list, I think they got it mostly right. I just want to know. I know we got a little bit of time left. Do y'all want to go into receivers or running backs next?
Let's talk about these running backs.
Okay.
You talking about top 10 for running backs for
top
right
10
now or next week?
Yeah, the top 10 list. They got the top 10 list of the running backs out. They've been dropping one every day. So let's see if I can get it really quickly. Because the one I got, they keep showing the receiver ones.
I can hear Hink now. Talking about, damn it, give them boys 2 hours, man. Cause we be struggling trying to get this content in, but with less than an hour. I didn't see their.
I got it. If you go on the ESPN Plus, they have them. They have all the position groups linked, and so I'll run them down real quick. We got Nick Chubb as the number 1 back. Number 2, they got Christian McCaffrey. They got 3, Josh Jacobs. 4, they got Saquon Barkley, who we mentioned earlier. They got Derrick Henry at 5. Derrick Henry is at 5 this year. Last year, he was ranked number 1, so he has slipped 4 spots. They got Jonathan Taylor at 6. They got Alvin Kamara at 7. I guess that's kind of low for him, but Dalvin Cook is 8, even though he's a free agent, which shows you the devaluation of running back. A top 10 running back in the league is not employed. Tony Pollard at number 9, and then Austin Eckler, who I talked about earlier, is number 10. So honorable mention, they got Aaron Jones, which definitely is a good honorable mention. Then under him, Dameon Pierce, the young running back from the Texans, and then the third one they put as an honorable mention was Breece Hall, but he got hurt early, and so that's it's an interesting list. So Isaiah Jabari, y'all want to give y'all thoughts on that real quick?
Well, I totally agree with this lineup. Like, especially, me being a Saints fan, I don't knock, Alvin Kamara being number 7. I'm a big Saints fan, but at the same time, this list is actually accurate. But like dealing with stats and the amount of production that these running backs have put in, I actually agree with this list.
I see that. I guess for me, I think about Kamara, how tough he is to. I remember the Cowboys played the Saints a couple years ago. We had to put a cornerback on him to cover him out of the backfield because he's such a. When I think about that, I'm like 7, but I guess you think about that's how good the talent is. And Jonathan Taylor, who was last year's number 2, is down at 6. He's an outstanding talent. So it's.
I think one of the running backs, and unfortunately he's not on the team right now. That's Dalvin Cook. He's a very good running back. But it goes back to because it's kind of reversed. It's kind of reversed because Dalvin Cook, he's not injured. They just don't want to pay him the money, basically the money he's asking for. And I forgot what exactly the numbers are. But it's like, damn, man, I can't really think of a running back with that skill set, that talent level.
He didn't even miss a game last year.
He can't even find a squad. Because they say last year he was ranked number 4. And his highest ranking was number 3. And, I finally found the list. So, Austin Eckler, who I believe is very underrated, mainly because he plays in the West Coast. So a lot of people don't really see the Chargers games. And, you see Pollard. Well, I think Eckler is a better running back than Pollard, but because of who Pollard plays for, I think Eckler's been doing this longer. Pollard has to. I got to see him do this another season because, like you said earlier in the show, he has never been the premier back. So I don't know.
He's a home run hitter.
He's gonna have a heavier workload, and he got to come up to his Achilles. I don't know how this dude's gonna perform this year. Go ahead, E.
So I got a couple questions. Who on that list you think is better than Christian McCaffrey from the 49ers?
It's basically exactly who they have right here. Maybe the only one who could touch him right now. That dude, Christian McCaffrey is talented, and he I think a lot of people, I don't know, but Nick Chubb is a very good running back himself.
Yes.
So basically, the way they have it here, I'll say the way they have it.
I still think King Henry could be better than Christian. I still think he is, just because the big play threat at that size, it's like, hey man, we got this bottled up, and the next thing you know, it's like,
he is. Well, are you expecting him to do that every season though?
So, but dude, it's just so many people they forgot about in this list, because the guy from Tennessee, Derrick
Henry.
Oh, that's who you're just speaking to. Mm-hmm. He should be top 2, in my opinion, top 5. And then we still.
He's 5. They got him at 5. Yeah, I think 5 is just a little low. I think he should still be a little higher.
Maybe 3 or 4. Maybe
number 2. Because I know that we kind of like. Don't get me wrong. I love Nick Chubb. I'm a Georgia fan, obviously. I don't think he proved himself enough to be as high as number 1.
I have to look at his numbers, but he's been very solid. He just don't get. That's interesting.
I think his thing is I think this is the year. Hey man, don't worry about that third down guy. Because forgot the running back's name that was with them. Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt he's gone. I think he needs to take on more in the passing game, because his power game, his 5 yards a pop, that's just crazy. Like and then he does have a good line, but it's one thing to have a good line. It's another thing to put up monster stats with that good line.
And then Jonathan Taylor from the Colts wasn't even there, right? He wasn't even on the
list. No, he was 6.
Oh, he was 6.
They dropped him because he had a bad year. Taylor had a bad year, and so that's why on the ranking it shows his highest rank. The highest rank that people was 2. The lowest they put him was 10. And I know I may not have mentioned this in the show. This is from execs, coaches, and scouts. So it's not fanboys. This is literally people, and like they have the comments in there from like the different scouts. It's like, hey, I think this guy is this, or they even said it. What you said, Shawnee, I think about Pollard. They did mention. Let me make sure they said I like the player, but I need to see him do it another year before I place him in the top 10. That's what one person said. It was a scout player or whatever. But I know we running out. As you see on the screen, we got final thoughts. So let's start it off first with our guest. E, you want to go ahead and give your final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I just think that now what we have to find out is how can I do what's best for me. I know a lot of people have been trying to figure out how to do what's best for them. And when it comes, I think quarterbacks are typically taken care of from a salary point of view, but running backs are not. And so now they got to find ways how they can find endorsements to be able to truly and honestly get paid before they even get to the league, because we understand that the shortest position to really be in the lead is typically the running back. I appreciate you guys having me over today.
Appreciate you, brother. All right. And so who we got going next? You brothers want to go ahead and go next?
My final thoughts with this lineup and how things are going, like with the devaluation of running backs. Like I feel like they shouldn't, just really devalue running backs, because running backs are, very, special to a team, especially with certain skill sets. Some like backs, like you have Derrick Henry, for instance. He's big, he's elusive, and he runs every bit of a 4.4, 4.5. He's a big guy, big, fast, 250 plus. And you have Alvin Kamara, who's very elusive, and he's a receiving back at that, which adds to the game of football. So I really feel like they shouldn't devalue running backs at all.
Appreciate that.
And I throw mine is basically kind of piggybacking off what Eve's final thoughts was about. Is going to the whole running back and they're undervalued and whatnot. And when I just look at it like this, I just can't help but look at it from both sides. As far as I understand, running backs, the workload that teams just like basically just literally chew them the hellified up, and then spit them out when it's time. Okay, where's my money? What's time to pay? What's time to pay me? And but then I also look at uh, from the other side, from the front office perspective, because you have so many valid options behind them. I'm like, dude, why would we pay you when you just get this dude who's hungry, maybe even hungrier, to just play, and we can get him at a cheaper level, and it's consistent. That cycle is consistent. So as far as okay, this running back, he gives you good 4 years, replace him with another running back. That running back 4 years, replace him with another running back. So it's just I understand. I see it from both sides. A lot of times you just don't hear nothing from the front office side. You always hear the players and the fans. Fans always go for the player side, and the players ones who speak the most. But you don't hear nothing from the front office. They just be back there doing the moves. And so, yeah, and I see Mr. Bennett ask a question about who we take between Zeke or Le'Veon. By an edge, and I'm talking about an edge, so you can pick either one. I may go with Elliott, but it's hard to say that because the Cowboys was one of organizations that chewed him up so bad that they spit him out to he's basically useless. But Elliott can do everything Bell did, but I think he has a bigger home run threat because he was faster. So I look at it that, but yeah, Le'Veon had. I think he was able to enjoy more. I don't want to say more production because Elliott he could have been at least a 3-time Russian champ.
He was close, and career he was like
that whole
he's
10,000
from scrimmage, 10,000 from scrimmage, AK. Like he really, the only Cowboy running backs that ever produced more than him are named Emmitt Smith and Tony Dorsett, and so that's a tough one. But I guess for my final thoughts, I'm actually going to go ahead and mention some of the comments that I did not see and the Dak slander that I got. So obviously for that question, Mr. Bennett, I'm going with Zeke Elliott. Hope he gets somewhere. But if we're going to go off of just what players have done, my thing is in 2023, you trust Jared Goff more than you trust Dak Prescott. And if you want to go by the wins and loss guy, when they played last year and the Lions are a solid team, Dak was coming back from an injury, wasn't close. It just wasn't. He's not that guy that's as good. That's probably why they took Hendon Hooker and thinking that if Goff is cool, great. If not, we got Hendon Hooker, get him developed. And also, as far as being in the top 10, I mean, I ain't saying he need to be number one, but he's a top 10. There's not too many quarterbacks who, even if you want to drop Stafford off because he did look trash last year, you could almost say, hey, man, he won the Super Bowl and then he kind of got back to who he was in Detroit. Throw a lot of yards, lose a lot of games. So it's just like, I know we can debate that and we're going to see that. But I appreciate everybody in the chat. KP, you was holding it down, Mr. Bennett, everybody, Marcus, everybody in the chat. Trey, killing a lot with the comments today. The loves, everybody. I appreciate y'all and everything like that. I appreciate y'all coming out, showing that support. I wish we need more time. We need to debate. But Mr. Bennett, we need you back. We know we got boxing this week. We know we got the big fight. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. So a lot going on in sports right now, man. So that's all I got for y'all this week.
When we come back, if Mr. Bennett, if you're available, hell, we give you the first 10 minutes to recap that fight for us if you're available. So, but yeah, it's gonna be
next week. Next week the lead in. So yeah, I just want you to talk
whenever
about
the fight. Whenever the fight happens, the first show we have is that he asked him who we got. I'll give it to you next week.
Yeah, I'll get to you next week because I know we got to get out of here. So I appreciate y'all, man. It's the one-on-one sports show. We appreciate y'all. Another great week. We'll see y'all next week. And y'all be easy, man. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Go.